Here, and there's a lot of things that I've been waiting to say. We are here and we are ready. And, I first want us to take a moment to just breathe and relax for a second. Everybody needs to learn how to relax and chill. There's two things that's happening. You have some people that are excited, and you have some people that are emotional and depressed. And both are actually very erratic states to be in. Excitement leads the way to mind when you're not really thinking, right? Because I see many people excited and they're not even taking the opportunity that is actually in front of them. They're not even prepared for anything. They're just excited just because they feel like they scored one. But there's a lot of things that I've been waiting to say about the approach, the strategy, the lack of strategy, the disrespect, the side eye, why Donald Trump won, why the Democrats was always going to lose, and why Kamala was never a good candidate in the first place. That may come harsh to some of you all, but in the philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, it is what it is. You have a link for me? All right, let's drop that real quick. I want to make sure I send it to everybody else. Make sure y'all send this out to your family and friends as well. I see we got people coming in from all over. If you're just tuning into this and you're going to end up watching this one on a replay, make sure you fast forward from this point forward. I want to let some people pull in real quick before we get started on this conversation. There's a lot of things that I've been seeing, and there's a lot of things I've been wanting to talk about. And quite frankly, I've been letting I've been letting both sides get theirs off, right? I believe that it's important because in the election time, there's certain things that people can't hear until it's over. Until the noise died down, people could not understand or hear anything. And now I think we're at a point where people are actually going to be forced to listen, whether they want to or not. So I'm dropping the link myself. Okay. Boom. All right, that's done deal. Now let me go ahead and drop this one. Make sure y'all share with somebody else who don't know that we live. All right, let's start off. Let's get straight into the fire. Let's get straight into the fire. Why did Donald Trump win? I was listening to a former CIA operative, and he was giving a breakdown about how Donald Trump did all the right things for a psychological to be ran for him to win, right? He talked about how he had very simple messaging that allowed him to get directly into the hearts and the minds of the people. And I was watching the Breakfast Club commentators on this yesterday about it, and they started to agree, right? The fact that they ignored their own base and their own middle class, and why this is a heavy lesson for you all, especially if you consider yourself to be a creator, if you consider yourself to be an influencer, if you have a business, there are heavy lessons that you can learn from this. And there's lessons that I've been learning throughout this whole entire time that I've actually been able to apply in real time, right? Donald Trump has always had simple messaging. This messaging has been propaganda that has been utilized throughout time. Make America great again. Why? Because it's simple enough for a third grader to understand. And there's different education levels. There are people who speak at different literacy levels, different languages, and it was simple enough for everybody to get. Now, this is a simple test to where you know. Do you know what Kamala's slogan even was? Somebody let me know real fast. Come on, quick, quick. How many people know what it was? Exactly. I'm seeing the chat empty. She had a slogan. She had a slogan. Somebody put it in there, please. I don't see it. I don't see it whatsoever. I don't see anything. It was something about let's move forward. It's time to move forward or something. See something. Some people saying not going back. But see, there's a psychological component to getting ideas in a mind. And if you can't get an idea simple enough in the mind, then it does not register for people to hold on to. They ran on divisive things that alienated people and did not unite a base. But I'm gonna take it back from here. Kamala was always going to lose because Biden was always going to lose. The Democrats was always going to lose. The Democrats had not set out one single good strategy from the beginning. They ran on Biden. Biden was too old. Biden got up there. He fumbled the ball. They threw it to Kamala. They were always going to blame this on Kamala by throwing her in on the fourth quarter. I ain't gonna lie. They set y'all up for the fool's game. They set up black women, put y'all hopes up, and then only to set her up to fail. This was Biden's failure from the beginning. Biden should have dropped out the race a year ago, and he should have been setting up somebody else to take over. She did not poll well anywhere to where you should have chose her to be the one that runs. They should have allowed the process to go through before they can choose a nominee to see what actually posed well and what will play out the best in a scenario. But Biden was never going to lose. His numbers was going to be even worse and more disastrous because there were so many people that was going to sit on the couch, right? Even more people, and there were so many people that was going to easily flip-flop because they were saying he's too old and this is just bad. And how can we have a senile man at the front at the White House and he's barely hanging on to life? So Kamala was set up, to be honest with you, in my humble opinion. She was never going to be the candidate to win that White House. And she was never, and y'all can say what y'all want, she was never going to have an appeal to black men. I want y'all to understand this, right? And zoom in and get a little tighter in on my face. I want you to zoom in just a little bit, not too crazy, right? But I want them to be able to see. Look, and take it however you want to. There's never going to be a candidate moving forward, first of all, that black people will respect if they're not black American lineage. Full stop. Michelle Obama was the best choice for a black woman to win this presidency. Kamala has a white husband, white family, and she's not a mother. She was always going to lose. She never had the right messaging. She never had a message that was going to be delivered to the people in a way that was going to charge up the base. And she's essentially like an influencer that pays people, right? And buys followers. Now, what am I saying about this? What I'm saying is that in the game of being able to influence people, to get them to go a certain direction, the Democrats spent $1 billion more than the Republicans, right? This was the most expensive election of all time. This was big money election. But what happened is that when you spend money to get in front of people and you don't actually have a connection with the people, then people will become your follower, but not your supporter. They know who you are, but they're not connected to you. So what you cannot do is you cannot buy votes in the way of becoming a celebrity and just being known. Most people did not know a story. They had 7 months to try to craft out a story to get people to connect with them. Now, you know, when you have a new artist and you're trying to develop a new artist, you have to know who that artist is before you will go to their concert. But there's some people that you're connected with already that you will easily go buy a ticket to go see. I gave a breakdown and I was telling everybody this is not going to translate election day because she is essentially a paid influencer, right? That is spending money. She was giving rappers $150,000 for 5-minute posts, throwing out $200,000 here, $300,000 here. Got celebrities everywhere, but this is just money we're seeing. And the people have become disconnected to the celebrity, and they've been running an old framework play that does not actually work consistent with the times that we in. Donald Trump ran the new framework play. Now, I gave a breakdown to this, right? Because I've been studying to prepare the community to understand what's the framework for 2025. The framework, when you want to reach people, it's not about who's the most known. We don't even buy products the same way. The funnel is completely different. People don't care about celebrities. simple awareness is not enough. No, you have to connect with people. It has to be a community. That community converts into action to where people actually buy because of the why, not the what. She got a bunch of people that was the what. This is a big name. This is a big name. You know, this singer, she sat down with a bunch of athletes, but they had no political influence because people went to them for very niche entertainment. But now we're in the age to where you may think that Cardi B is a celebrity, right? But she doesn't have any political influence over anybody. So now the new celebrities are the ones that are the influencers that have the podcast. Donald Trump went on every single white podcast, their black podcast, whoever would allow him. He respected the new age influence because then he connected himself to their audience, which allowed him to attach himself to their trust. And then that converted all those audiences because they was like, wait a minute, if my favorite podcaster that I like, that I trust, that I get my news source and my thought leadership from, he went on their show, he acknowledged them. Oh, he must be a good guy by proxy. So proximity allowed him to be able to gain those votes. There were so many people that followed me and that said they were going to support Robert F. Kennedy simply because he came on my platform for no other reason. Full stop. They was like, oh, I respect that. He came and supported 19 Keys. Oh, I'm rocking with him. Same thing with Cornel West. Now, the Democrats early on put out a hit piece against black media and the influence of black media. They basically said that that's too much power for black men to have, and they believed that we were going to drive people to right wing extremists, right, in our conversation. What they were basically saying is they don't want to see black men with a voice. This automatically drove a disgusting feeling in the pit of the stomach of black men. And then black men are the greatest influencers on the planet. So we can make something hot. But if we say something isn't hot, then it's not. So it didn't matter if there was a small percentage, a 20% of black men who voted and said someone was hot, or the black men who didn't vote that said that they was rocking with Donald Trump. Their influence carries weight, not just on the black segment of population, because you got to understand that anytime we touch any product, it becomes Midas gold, right? And that's on anything in the planet Earth. But they did not respect the new age of leadership, of thought leadership, and influence. Matter of fact, Kamala turned down going to InvestFest. And the little secret that y'all don't know is Donald Trump said he would show up. Secret Service last minute said that he could not show up. I'm only sharing this with you also for me having this information on the back end, thinking about these things. Let me know that that party was never prepared to win because the political team that they were surrounding that were the strategists, the consultants that was on this, never even knew how to win. Biden didn't know how to win. She didn't know how to win. And the Republicans are more tapped in right now. Now, this goes even more to deeper layers and deeper layers. When you're talking about messaging, you're talking about having something that isolates a base because they ran on things that weren't connecting people. Her identity became more important than her policies. Therefore, it became a conversation where people were trying to explain her. And when the customer is confused, they don't buy. That's just a fact of life. When a customer is confused, they don't buy. If you have a product and that's not clarity on what it is, what it does, why I should buy it, what are the benefits, the customer will not buy each and every time. Then there's the bigger conversation on the issue of the Democratic Party never addressing the issues, right, that historically wrongs that they have done to Black people in America. So part of the vote for Donald Trump in a lot of people's eyes was a FU to the Democratic Party. This is why they lost unanimously across the board, because they was not listening to their own base. They had ignored their whole entire base, and they were running on things that, quite frankly, did not charge up the conservative values of their own people. Now, everything that I talk about, I had a conversation with my mother. She was the first person that I talked to on the phone this morning. And we agree completely on all of this, right? We agree on this. Donald Trump has called himself the lesser of two evils out of his own mouth. They did black male summits, but not with the black men that we consider to be the archetypes, the ones that we aspire to be, the ones that actually have the influence of black America. You can't go safe against the radical. It don't work that way. Democrats was always going to lose. Donald Trump was always going to win. Right? And then there's all these so-called women movements. But what's this women movement? Because white women have decidedly voted against Kamala in the interest towards a white man, and they do that every single time with Donald Trump. But somehow there's this women's movement of intersectionality that the black community believes in. And it's just simply not true. What they've shown you is that they will vote for their man no matter who is on that ballot. And that's how we have to be as a people as well. And you can't be respected until that happens. You ain't gotta like it, but it is what it is. Right? The way that they ran this campaign was disrespectful to Black America, because Black America has become so much more complex and sophisticated since then. And not just Black America, Latino America, the men and the women. We're way more complex than celebrities and entertainers. When you look at high-level conversation, there's a reason we get millions of views. And they just completely ignore the trends, because the reason that we watch historically bad girls and hip hop shows and all of those different things that were negative and people fighting in the drama is because, quite frankly, we didn't have any other option because nothing else was being funded. Now that we have another option to where there's independent funding of media, more people are deciding that they want to tune into something that is more beneficial to their future. And for them not to pay respect to that, and quite frankly, not just them, a lot of you all not paying respect to that. A lot of corporate America not paying respect to that. In the next 4 years, so much is going to shift, because now that they've seen the framework that works, everybody is going to start pouring in towards those type of funnels. Can I see the comments? Let me see some comments up here. So you ain't gotta like it, but it is what it is. Being able to take a step back now and look at this thing, Kamala was never going to win. And it wasn't even about her being a Black woman. A Democratic candidate was never going to win. You can personalize this all you want to, but they were never going to win. You got to think about who could have won, right? How exceptional this candidate could have won. I heard Mark Lamont talk about, since LBJ, it hasn't been a Democratic candidate that got the majority of white vote in America. So there were so many things that were against her to win, and you put so much faith into this system when that's not the way we're supposed to operate. First of all, there's supposed to be a political philosophy that we agree on. Is it family? Is it wealth? Right? Is it our human rights? Right? A political philosophy that we agree on. And then what happens is, with that political philosophy, we ask who is in alignment with it. Is it the Democratic Party? Is it the Republican Party? Whoever it is. And we take our political philosophy and we say, these are the things that we want. And I mean, as a collective. And it does not require everybody, right? The thing about politics is there's a lot of power in politics. And this has even changed my mind towards political power in a political conversation. The late, great Malcolm X talked about politics in a very different way than I was used to. As I started studying a little deeper into his conversations about, the bullet or the ballot. And he talked about how the preachers had used it and how the church had used it. And speaking on the church does not have the same level of influence and power. The NAACP don't have the same level of influence and power. Those are not the groups that young Black America respect. These are not the groups that other people in places respect. They run literally the oldest funnel that you can run in Black America. And I promise you, if they try to run that same one, voter turnout will be so low next time, it'll feel like we don't even have a right to vote. But what is the actual power within the politics? Because there are things on the ballot that could be beneficial, such as Prop 6, that I believe did not get passed, right? Because you're not electrifying a voter base whatsoever because they don't see immediate return. And these are people that's focusing on survival. They focusing on being able to pay their bills, focusing on trying to have some upward mobility in a class that is in a country that is erasing the middle class. And why? It's because your voter engagement sucks. Not only your voter engagement, your social engagement, right? To social political movements that happen on the ground. See, the issue at the start of the campaign was that we was able to get tens of thousands of people to donate millions of dollars and then brag about it. And immediately what you did was triggered Black people to say, damn, why we can't do that for ourselves. Immediately that was the trigger. So while you celebrating, a lot of people are sitting back and saying, damn, how come we can't do that for our communities? How come we can't do that when it comes to setting up mental health clinics and things of that nature? How come we can't do that when it comes to trying to create our own sustainable food to farm, a farm to food, sustainable practices? How come we can't do that when it comes to ending food deserts, right? How come these one things, like, I'm so glad it's now I get to have this conversation because we've been guilty the fact that so many people got energized during this damn election. I'm talking about every celebrity that was sitting their ass back, just counting up their money for years, entertaining the people, collecting the dollar, selling us product that we don't need, all of a sudden jumped in front of a camera, got on stage, got paid, acting like they was some all of a sudden activists that cared about you. But for years, they sell you trash. For years, they entertain you. They shake their ass and don't give a damn about your life and your existence. They literally push drugs and all sort of different things on you. It's the Ozempic Olympics out there. They don't care how they influence the people. And so the people look at the celebrities as sellouts. This is a collective consensus amongst the youth of this generation. It's a reason why all these conspiracies around the celebrities have been trending. And you thought that these were the people that you should prop up when it's time for the people to do something that's for them, when we know there's too much transparency to where we can search things and see how they operate and work now. Just because we listen to somebody's song don't mean we respect them. So now we at this point in time where we like, all right, now we see what y'all can do. We see what the fraternities can do when they get together and they pull their resources. We see what Black women can do when they pull their resources. We see what Black men can do when they pull their resources. Anything. The whole world is yours. You can run a campaign, and then we see where we tell people immediately, shut up and forget they past and give them grace. But we never do that when it comes to Black leadership and social movements. Because the truth about it is, you can be afraid of Project 2025 is only because you don't have your own political philosophy. So what are the movements moving forward? The forward movements have to be based on our agendas, political philosophies that we get behind. And it don't start no 4 years later. It starts right now. It starts people being active right now, whether you like those voices or not. Right? Whether you respect them or not, or whether you agree or disagree, because there has been niche groups in America that has been historically left out. My group of Black men in America has never been talked to by political pundits and politicians. The Black male, Muslim, masculine, you know what I'm talking about? Like, we ain't never been in no conversations. I wasn't expected to get invited to the White House. I had no expectation for an invitation. I'm gonna tell y'all something. I was gonna have a Democratic voice. It was a congressman that wanted to come on the show. And I said, yes, why not? AIPAC was spending the most money in history that they had spent against somebody. And he wanted to come on high level conversations. Now, y'all gotta understand, when I do high level conversations, I'm spending my own money, right? We got multiple editors, we got multiple cameras, we have to get a venue, right? There's so many different things that come into it. I'm spending my money to put on an episode. Now, if they're spending money against him, I wasn't expecting that episode to go platinum, but I didn't mind raising awareness because this brother said he needed some help. But last minute, his team told him, don't go on there. 19 Keys too radical. And that brother lost his seat. So later on, I see people telling me, Keys, you got to speak up for this. You got to do this. I say, well, damn, if I'm too radical for them to support, then why would I support them? Y'all want me to be silent. When a sister, the Nigerian sister who was the Democratic sister, ran a hit piece and put my face on there, CSNBC, right? They was mad because I tagged them. I said, no, y'all don't understand. This is a new age where we have our own platforms and our own power as well. The same way you can write an article about me, I can write one about you and even get higher reach. Right? You think that you can tarnish my name? Well, no, I can dox yours. So y'all got to understand the new age that you playing in when you playing with people now. And because they did not respect black men like myself, that's one of the biggest reasons you lost, because you had all of these soft, fat belly black men that was feminine that were just going up there tricking y'all because they was getting a bag, talking about they want this black woman to lead, knowing that it was not about her, whether she was qualified and none of that. It wasn't about what she was a black woman. It was about the Democratic Party was never going to win because they never had a strategy. They never listened to the people. They were outdated, right? And the people were pissed off in a way that they had been running things for years. And quite frankly, I feel sorry for Kamala because she was sacrificed, thrown in front of there. Black women was played with, just thrown in front of there, knowing that they were going to lose already. I heard months ago from credible sources directly working with them that they were preparing to lose for months. That's not the attitude and the strategy that people that was going to win take. They had been preparing to lose for months. But how they play on people and prey on people's emotions got you all the way invested in raising all this money and was never going to win. So when it comes to politics, yes, I think we should use it. But I think we should only use it when we're organized. See, I like people like Tesla Figueroa. She keeps me thinking. I like the way she be activating things. I like the way Killer Mike shouts her out. I think black men and women need to learn how to work together. I think that we need to learn how to work together with global allies, right? I'm going to give y'all a breakdown. I went to Japan. A lot of you all probably don't know about this, right? You know, we lost World War II and things changed. It's a reason why you normally don't see people quote anything of our ancestors before the 1960s. Why is that? How come we only get quotes from our ancestors before 1960s? That's the most history that we support. Because we start, black people and the modern activists act like our history starts with the civil rights. But what led to the civil rights movement and what was our traditions and what was our ancestors saying before that? What were they dying for before we had the right to vote? All of them didn't agree. They all had different political philosophies. How much government they should work with? Should they work with the government at all? Some people believe you should work within it. These had always been conversations between W.E.B. Du Bois, Thurgood Marshall, Marcus Garvey, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? Kwame Ture. These have been conversations all along. Matter of fact, some of them was Democrats, some of them, well, they were Republicans at that time, of course. Some of them were Marxists, communists, all different philosophies that we engage with. But there was a level of political philosophy that we all started to understand. Now, before the 1960s, we were focusing on, right, global allies. Specifically, we was working with the Japanese. There was a society called the Black Dragon Society, right? There was Japanese fellas that came early in the 1900s into St. Louis and Detroit, and they was working with black businesses. They had brought money to give loans, right, and different technologies. And this started the relationship between the blacks and the Japanese. Now, a lot of you all don't know that early in that time, there was all of this sedition of all of the black leaders, meaning that they refused to go to the war, so they went to jail. Why? Because pro-Japanese sentiments were at an all-time high, right? Pan-Asianism, where they believe Asia for Asians, right, was at an all-time high, and they worked with the Pan-Africanists. Nationality was at an all-time high. Black nationality was at an all-time high, right? This connected the group of people together. So they believed that the Japanese, after seeing them defeat the Russians, keeping them out of a territory, they said, damn, we ain't never seen a non-white people defeat white people. So we was like, maybe we should work with y'all. Okay. They said, maybe we should work with y'all. Now, they started actually funding a lot of these paramilitary and black nationalist groups, specifically a black woman by the name of Maddie Maul, who came out of the UNIA, the group that was started by Marcus Garvey. She had over 400,000 members. The Ethiopian Black Brotherhood. They were prepared to, they focusing on global allies so that could help them defeat white supremacy. And they believed that the Japanese was going to be the saviors that helped them do it. She was so radical that she even worked with the head of the Ku Klux Klan at that time, right? Because they believed that they wanted the same thing. This was the radical tradition of the ancestors that was fighting for ownership. Now, a lot of you all have been paying attention. I posted the picture of one of our first demonstrations of activism in this country, which was the Silent March that happened in 1910. In 1910, they had a silent march, not yelling, not going crazy in the street, but they were holding up signs of ownership, right? You had thousands of nurses dressed in white dresses outside walking down the street. They had a long list of all of the different vocations, right, in the craftsmen that the black people was working in: skilled workers, labor jobs, construction workers, engineers, right? They had a list of all of the things that we had: 10,000 people in this, 1,000 people in that. Then they had a sign talk about how much ownership they had collectively. $500 million worth of farmland. They was telling the government that it's your job to provide opportunities. It's our job to take them. They said the first blood was shed by one of us. They said we not the ones that we never tried to assassinate a president in this country. We fought in every single war, and we still don't get treated humanely, because this was after, right, of course, some murders that white supremacists had done. But this was our form of original protest when you take it back to our original radical tradition in America. And global allyship, political philosophy, nationalism, a lot of these things are completely lost upon this generation. And the only thing they tell us is to vote. But how do we get to that point? Well, after they lost the war, Maddie Maul realized that the Japanese was more so focused on imperialism, not ending colonialism and the constructs of white supremacy for Black in America, right? So she realized that because she said, well, they working with the Nazis, which was funny because she was working with the Ku Klux Klan to try to get to a point, right? But after they lost, because the messaging was so strong, right, that were pro-Japanese sentiment, and the connection was so strong, all those organizations essentially lost their membership. And a lot of that membership went into the Nation of Islam because they did not have a pro-Japanese messaging. It was Black man in America, do for self, which had always been a message. Do for self had always been a key message all throughout that lineage. They was fighting for wealth, power, the ability to have self-sustainability, self-reliance, self-governing, the whole entire thing, right? So then after they lost, of course, the FBI just started sniping people. They sniped JFK, they sniped Malcolm X, they sniped Martin Luther King, they even killed Martin Luther King's mother. They was going crazy, right? Then you start to see rise in different political figures. And then that's when we start focusing on global allies, and we shrunk down what we was fighting for, and we localized it to a civil rights. Because you got to remember, Malcolm X went on the global stage once he got into politics and started fighting for human rights. protesting at the UN for Black people in America. So that was the end of that radical tradition on a large stage, and it went over to civil rights, and those became the figures of the movement because number one, that was safer and easier to deal with because it was not trying to radically bring down white supremacy. That was not the radical conversation within those. It was how to work within the system, how to blend in. And then that's when we, of course, got integration. So we wasn't focusing on separate, let's have our own, let's empower ourselves. So now we are a generation, of course, you go 4 decades into it, you had the heroin, you had the crack epidemic, right? You had, of course, all of the Black brothers that came from the military, couldn't get jobs. We had railroading, we had hip hop, gangsterism, right? So many different things that happened. And now we are the generation that is existing without knowledge of the past. So we're not promoting a real timeline of authentic history in the way that we see ourselves, in the way that we promote our ways to go for liberation and freedom to save ourselves. So many people, it's not to say that you can't work within the system. It's in that there has to be a holistic approach that we're not fighting for. And then we've lost so much of our own conservative values as well for progressiveness, because we started working with intersectionality within so many groups. And when we get in those groups, we don't influence them, they influence us. And in that influence, it dissects us and divides us off into these different identities. So it's not Black nationality anymore. No, it's gender, it's sex, it's sexual orientation, it's all these other things before Black. So now we're more divided than ever, which makes us easy to pick off. The Russian bots, everybody just gets they say so. There should only be one order of this day, which is Black family. And I think that all people could agree to that. White, Black, brown, no matter who you are, they could respect that. But what does Black family mean? Black family means that Black men and Black women love each other and get along. That's what that means. But because we keep looking at things in a bubble, and we're not looking at the larger context where we know how to view all the way out, right? We thinking about what's happening in our generation versus how our generation was Frankenstein. What made us become the monster in the first place? Because radical, when you look up the root word, it just means to get to the root. So when somebody say you too radical, what you saying? I'm getting to the root of things? What does that mean to be too radical? That's a good thing. When something, we always say the system is working perfectly the way it was designed. But that means that only a radical change would actually be worthy of fighting for. But in the day and age, we have the art of war. So we know that in the art of war that you don't want to have to try a violent uphold or something because that's much harder friction. Instead, in the day and age, what do we have the most influence? We have the most influence in media. We have the most influence in retail. We're 1.6 trillion spending power, right? We're growing in the space of media, meaning that we have influence to create pipelines, so have vertical integration to where we can control our economy. Full stop. Right? As they putting tariffs on products, that should be a refocus on reshoring, bringing manufacturing jobs to the US. And then we decide what gets manufactured, what gets hot, right? And what gets influenced. So we're creating things from here and shipping them all across the planet Earth and charging them for our influence because we making everything hot anyway. We should not be importing everything from every country, just being consumers. We have to go to a prosumership where we produce what we consume. Out of all of this pain and all of this hurt and all this anguish that I've heard that people so calledly display, and all of this praise and all of this appreciation and celebration, we haven't had an economic conversation whatsoever. I haven't heard I'm going to boycott this company because they support them. I haven't heard we're going to boycott within each other so that we strengthen each other. That hasn't been a conversation. Why? Because it is not the adopted political philosophy. What should be the easy one for us to hold on to? But that's not it. Mm-mm. When we want to have real conversations, that's when we get into it. I'm gonna tell y'all something that's I probably shouldn't say. But here's the thing: like, I help a few times, done a lot of different things, right? But there was one time we did my Black Receipts. It was something we did during the George Floyd. During the George Floyd, I have a different type of activism, right? We went to food deserts in Atlanta and we served food to the people. Like we was going door to door with the produce fresh from the farm, talking to the people because we wanted to show them while we're in the streets yelling at the government, we should be consolidating and organizing with our people and building trust and community with them. Then we set up My Black Receipts, right? Which was software technology that was connected to a boycott, which means we buy the things we want to support, and then a boycott, we boycott the things that we don't want to support. So what happened is people were buying Black, and then they would upload their receipts, and I think we got it up to $4 million to show the power of the Black dollar when we intentional about its circulation, right? Saying that anytime something negative or something racist happen, instead of protesting and getting loud and emotional, instead we have an economic reaction to it that eventually becomes a habit and a lifestyle. That's my kind of protest that I love, right? But then you realize a lot of you all are way more powerful than you know. So it's no reason for you to set out on politics because if you all have the ability to influence 100, 200 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, then that means that you have the ability to sway politics. But what is politics? Politics is money. Billions of dollars, millions of dollars. There's grants out there, there's programs, there's multiple things, but we just have not had an organizing spirit under a political philosophy. Right now, it has to be save yourself to save the world, right? Self realization, self actualization, self governing for the point of community development. So let's just imagine if there was 3 million Black men under one group. These 3 million Black men, I'm just saying men, we can have women do this. If there was 3 million Black men and they said, we all represent one political group. And what we do every 4 years, whether that's local or whether that's presidential, is we hold votes within each other. And we can do this within the AI software. And everybody puts in their issues of concern. And then at the end of this, that software can then decide this is the best action. This is what the majority of people find the biggest concern. Those people then can put up $10, right? $20, whatever it may be. So you got a pot of money for lobbying, right? And then you have the collective concerns of the people, right? And this is easy things to do now because the technology is here. So these are not far-fetched ideas. These are like, all right, let's run a simulation now. But what that does is now, anytime somebody want to talk to these 3 million Black men and want them to do anything, now they have a council that those people have to come talk to. So the councilmen, the senators, the Congress, the presidents, any one of those groups. If you want anybody in this group to move at all, you have to talk to them directly. Now, of course, that can go beyond 3 million. That should be 10 million, right? That gives you so much political power and leverage. It don't matter who you talk to, you're going to get things done because all of them is saying that we all move the same way. We all have the same political philosophy. Now that is power that one can leverage, not as influence. Influence is soft power, asking things to get done. We're talking about force, right? The ability to put people in position, the ability to say yes or no. This is how it's going to go. This is how it's not going to go. And then when you combine influence, is what we've been focusing on for so long, with force, now you have the same recipe as every other group on how they're able to get what they want done. So I look forward to working with a lot of you all over the next 4 years, because I think that it's opened people's minds up to say that you can't afford to ignore, right? Power. You can't afford to ignore these conversations that we've been having and we've been trying to tell people, but we can't do these things in a silo on our own because it requires resources. How do you know it requires resources? Because we just put up millions of dollars. Everybody got on the campaign trail. They utilized their platforms and they organized, but you did it for a politician and not for the people. Now, when we do it amongst ourselves, that power can be utilized 24/7, right? It's like having the sun in the harness of your hands, because at any given time, you can shine light. Any given time, you can make something go dark. Now, that is what we should be focused on. That puts, it don't matter who it is, what project, who's in office, what's going on. That's powerful. And then we should have a focus on educating ourselves. When I was younger, we grew up with PBS, public broadcasting channels that we learn different things from. But we talk about the history and the education system being erased. Fine, let them erase it. The question doesn't become, do we cry and fight for that again? The question becomes is, where's our collective resource to build our own institution, and where are the children learning the most? Online. So if you got these billionaires and millionaires and influential celebrities and groups and all these people that care, then let's start simple and create our own. I've been doing my part with high level conversations, educating the people, but we need to be able to do more. We bottleneck over here because we need more resources. So I'm asking you all to come over here and work with high level, right? Anybody that wants to do sponsorship for events and things of that nature, go to 19keys at 19keys.com. But we build it. I'm not waiting on nobody. We have the blueprints. We know how to build, right? And the way that we've been doing it is the way that everybody is now trying to go do. How do they build them a brand to get some influence to create community? But you have to be authentic in your purpose, right? And we have to all agree upon a collective philosophy. We ain't got to agree upon everything. But we know that the liberation of our people categorically, specifically economically, education, right, health, spiritual, those are things that matter very much. I don't want to take too much of y'all time, but I wanted to have this conversation with y'all because these are things that I've been wanting to say. But I waited. I waited because you have so much faith in the system, and the system tells you to vote. Fine, do it, but organize. The word vote comes from the word votum, meaning to pledge to a deity. The deity is the United States of America, which is an entity that was created as a business. That business has always been built off the Masonic practices of managing Black bodies and energy. We are a battery power for a source and a core power that has rituals all throughout of it. And if you don't think that that's true, then go study the creators of America and how it was founded and why it was founded. But their greatest power is them being able to manage you and you not knowing your power, because if they empower you, then you manage yourself and you get all of the power that derives from source. Now, this is the truth of America. America has learned how to manage the Black body and win. Your voice, your spirit, your physical strength, your passion, your emotions, your energy is all powered off you. That's why there's no other thing that you ever need to do to Black men and women besides give them a knowledge of self, because then they turn around, they see themselves and saying, I am the master. Let me preside over my own affairs. But if we got us crying and sobbing on social media, to see God cry, knowing that he has the power to stop anything, what does that mean? It means that he must not know his power. She must not know her power. So this is why I don't like to see us crying. This is why I don't like to see us complaining. Well, why would you complain when you got all that power? All that power. That's why I say when you save yourself, you save the world. Self-development is the basis of community development. Now let's get back to our radical tradition, because you're going to need each other. I don't care if you voted for Trump. I don't care if you voted for Kamala. At the end of the day, If you want to see us thrive as a family, if you want to see us liberated, if you want to be a Black ally, right? If you want to be a global ally, right? Then that means that we have to be organized. So I'm going to use this channel to put out more messages like this, because these are high level monologues, if you will, right? But conversations that we need to have amongst each other. There are going to be some things that we can't take advantage of, right? You got Bitcoin, you got blockchain, you have a lot of cryptocurrencies, you have different investment sectors that's going to be, very hyped up during this, infrastructure, energy, right? Pay attention, because as the rich are making their plays to get rich, so can your family. But there's a lot of things that we have not taken serious over the last 5 to 10 years. We have not. Many people told you to invest in the stock, me being one of them, right? I was at the forefront of pushing this financial literacy movement global, telling you about options, telling you about crypto, telling you about stocks, right? Telling you to start the podcast. I said, let me be what I don't see. So even if I teach it and they don't do it, at least they can see it. So when they're ready, they can get in the movement. But now you can't ignore it. You should be starting your personal brand. You should be starting that podcast, not because just you want to, but it fall in line with your business structure and your funnel where you can have a voice. We need more political education. So I'm starting my own network. So for those that have a podcast and you need a better broadcast channel to get it out there, reach out to us. If it fits, then we can bring you along. Because for 2025, we about to have the strongest movement moving forward. We need grant writers. We need people of different skill sets, right? We need people that want to volunteer, that want to be a part of it. We're going to go on tour. There's a lot that we plan on doing, but the main focus is liberating ourselves, saving ourselves, and organizing so that we can utilize the collective leverage to have power regardless of situation or circumstance. AI has not even been talked about in this race, and it's affecting and will affect almost every aspect of our lives, right? And we just not being prepared. Now I'll leave you all with this, because I studied a lot of different things. There's something called solar cycle 25, which is very simple. It just says that every 11 years, the sun goes through maximum peak cycles where it emits different sunspots, solar radiation. Now, there has been scientific study that shows that throughout these 11-year cycles, going from minimum to maximum, once it hit maximum, there's always an effect on society. The earth has more energy, human beings get more energy. Melanated people have more skin conductance. It has an effect on breathing patterns, which affects your spirit, affects your thought and your rhythm of thought, where you see high social movements, different technology, technological disruptions, right? Sometimes things bleed into a more chaotic society and order. But this is why we have to be prepared, because a lot of people get cosmic anxiety when there are things that happen that are above their circumstances that they are afraid of. So the way we tune in is that we think about these things so we become aware. People get future shock when things change so much and they don't know how to react to it. As a futurist, the way that you curve that is you think and you simulate the future that you want in your head and what may happen by studying patterns, studying signals of change. Right? There has been many signals that would have told you Donald Trump is going to win. Elon Musk buying Twitter was a signal. Many signals. But then once they happen and you simulate that in your mind, it is almost as if you already lived it before it happened, which is why I'm able to stay ahead of the trends. So when they happen, I'm not slow to react. I'm ready to respond. And I need us to be ahead of these things as well. Because when things get a little bit chaotic, you should be like, oh, I already knew that was going to happen. I was taught this way as a child, which is why I am this way as an adult. So for my trip to Japan, and I studied those people and I seen a clean society. I seen 45% obesity rate over there. Out here, I come as 40 to 50%, right? I see a society that people are afraid to put shame on their family by acting out publicly or not doing the best job. But then you also learn from the issues. Because if you just follow their blueprint, you will also get their problems. But they follow what's called Bushido. And Bushido is the code of the warriors that has been followed for decades, centuries rather, that the people live, honor, and go by. That's why when we study our ancestors, we have to study the great ones, and we don't compete them and say, it was Mel, it was Mark, it was Elijah, it was this. No, you take the wisdom from all of them and you combine, because the great vision is hindsight. That's the one thing that our ancestors did not have. They couldn't see what was after them. Some of them predicted, some of them prophesized. But as children of the future, we get to look back, because now we have an example of somebody working in the government, out the government, without the government, right? We have an example of people doing it every single way. And now we can say, okay, now that we get to study them, what's our best path moving forward? And when you do that, it puts us all on code. And when we on code and we see someone acting outside of that, then we can ostracize them and then we can cut them out. Because if there is no code for the culture, then there's no culture at all. I was so inspired by that trip, and I'm like, man, this is the future of our culture, being able to have a society like this, to where there's group thinking, not individualism. Individualism got us here. Individualism got us right where we are. And I will say this, it's not a bad position to be in. A lot of things starting to seem distraught. Everybody can't go. That's key. Some people are beyond repair. You can get reparations and it won't help you. Some people beyond repair. Some people don't want to be saved. As the old African proverbs say, don't save them. They don't want to be saved. Some people, man, I seen a clip of somebody cooking some big back grease with some bacon and some garlic toast, and they had sandwich so big, and the sister talking about these are big back activities, and he had a whole page of big back activities. She ain't in no signs of slowing down. Those are people that intentionally poison our people. Don't care how big, how fat, how much lard in your back. While there's disease and there's death that's constantly being spread. Everybody ain't for us. So when you have a culture that is built on healthy practices, mindful practices, right? Economic longevity, to where we're focusing on economic investments for the future, right? Because their culture and wealth standard is different than ours. When they do education, they focus on nation building skill sets. We get education and we focus on shit that don't matter. Nation building skill sets. You learning the science, you becoming an engineer, an architect, you learning technology, right? Biology, things that can't actually be utilized for people to build their own. Also, when you focus on tech sectors and things of that nature and sectors of the future, right? It gives you the ability that when things change, you can scoop up all that wealth. And that is why the Asian family is at the top of the household wealth in this country. They make us compete with white and black. That's the old structure. It's the Asians that have always been the ones at the top doing it right. The Indians specifically. It's the highest grossing household income in America. So when we see a wealth standard of another people, all we got to do is adopt some of those same practices in our own way. But I promise you, it don't matter how smart we get, how intelligent we get. Everybody can pop a limitless pill right now. Everybody can take this some gold water and some supermine right now, which this will help you out. You know what I'm talking about? Get your brain boosted for sure. But without family, it means nothing. Meaning that without black men and women, we should boycott any podcast that is pushing negativity about black men and women against each other actively. If you see them in the streets and you have the ability to fight, you know what I'm saying? You should smack them up. No, I'm just playing. I don't condone you go do any acts of violence against these people whatsoever. But just make sure their viewership goes all the way down. Because this the best political movement ever, starting on the basis of family. And that means the repairment of our relationships. But you get better relationships and attracting better and manifesting better relationships by healing yourself. There's a lot of things that we may not want to accept, but we will be forced to change in order for us to get better. And this is the time, and I'll use this last analogy before I get out of here. Young Thug. Young Thug is somebody who has been forced to change his whole career. He's the prototypical nigga in hip hop rap, right? He started off with the name Young Thug. He couldn't pick a more stereotypical name if he tried. Not only that, he came out on the basis of doing things that were anti-hip hop, right? Stuff became considered mumble rap. He was wearing dresses. He was calling men bae. He said his son seen him wearing the dresses and he didn't want to have that influence on his son, and it forced him to do something different, right? Plus backlash. So that was a forceful change, right? Then he called a RICO case. And in this RICO case, all his homies snitched. You know what I'm saying? And the judge, of course, him and the lawyer, they did a fantastic job in strategy. And, you know, the DA dropped the case and did too much. But he was forced to change. Can't go to Atlanta. He got to do philosophical work, philanthropic work, right? He can't rap about gangs, can't throw up gang signs. He essentially has to be the rapper that people wanted him to be, but was forced to change to be. And there's something interesting about his entire example right through the thread, because if you juxtapose that with somebody like Nipsey Hussle, because Nipsey Hussle became the rapper that we all wanted rappers to be, right? But Young Thug is the rapper that is forced to be. And I think that that's how Black America, it's a micro example of how Black America will be forced to change, how we'll be forced to organize. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing that I seen was white America considering things to be so bad, right? And even a lot of Black America consider things to be so bad in America. Number one, they banded together. Elon didn't always like no Donald Trump. A lot of these billionaires, they didn't want to work together. Trump didn't want to take their money, right? They were forced to band together and organize to consolidate power. They were forced to work with these different people to try to save what they believe is their America. And so many people felt ostracized that they decided to go over there as well. This is the time where every knee shall bow. Every head shall bow, every knee shall, you know the rest. It don't matter if you want to or not, you will be forced to. So I want us to remember that. It don't matter if we want to change in this day and time. We will be forced to. It'll be better if we learn how to go with the flow of it. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure everybody click and subscribe, and make sure everybody join the High Level Club. We have a mentorship that we're doing week to week for those that find stagnation in their life and want to grow in their business and their personal brand and in their growth mindset. So we can take you with us to 2025 as we train, as we build out our brands, as we make our money in these different sectors. You want to stay up to date and you want to get into mastery. All you have to do is DM me on Instagram, the word mentor, and we'll be tapped in. Peace, family. Thank you all for tapping in. Make sure you share, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I'll see y'all on the next one.